Okay, guys, what I learned doing this reading is that traditional grading is like the worst possible way that we could do it. Um, but it was cool because we learned about all the reasons why it's bad, all the reasons that we knew as students, but now we have words for it. So, if we look here, the weaknesses of traditional grading. First of all, it's really subjective and inaccurate because teachers, even if they have the exact same tests and things like that, they can weigh things differently. So they could have the same assessment, but your final assessment might be worth 15% of your grade in one class, and then in a different class, the same class with a different teacher, it might be 15% of this as a paper, and your final is only like 10%. They can also do extra credit, or a different teacher could do attendance, things like that. So just how they grade and how they base points is going to be different, and so it's going to change what grade a student receives. They talked about the Swiss cheese achievement right here, and they say that students, when they pass the class, even if they get like an 80 or 75, they still are missing a good chunk of information. And that's bad because in our school system, the concepts build on each other. So if you don't have a good concept in algebra, when you get to pre-calculus, you're not going to do very well because you only have 75 or 80% of the knowledge and not the other 20 or 25%. So that's not okay. So you're just setting your students up for failure, basically. And then as far as motivation, they say that like the way the traditional grading is supposed to motivate students to work harder so they can earn a better grade. But I really like this quote right here. It says, "Students know the rules of the game. They try to find out what the teachers want and what it is going to take to get an A, and the focus becomes more on increasing points earned rather than on learning," which I totally think is true. Students tend to do exactly what they need to pass or get an A, and they don't actually care about learning the information, which is why we cram study and then forget about it after the class is over. So those are all problems with traditional grading. So the alternative that they suggested is competency-based grading, which means they look at grading as a way of assessing whether or not the student has become proficient in a certain concept or skill. The 6 elements of competency. First of all, everyone has a shared vision of what learning should occur. So they know, the students know what the target is, the parents know, the teachers know, everyone knows exactly what skill or concept they want the student to master. Which Sister Hewitt does a good job of that by having us start out with the learning targets every day. The second one is that students and teachers have a clear understanding of what it means to be proficient, so they know exactly what's expected of them. They're given rubrics. They know what proficient actually means. And the third one is that everyone knows where the student is, so they know if they've mastered it or not, or if they're still lacking in proficiency. And that's really important so that the student feels like they're a part of their learning. And in the reading, it gave the example of unpacking the standards so the students understand exactly what's expected of them in that grade and what they're supposed to be competent at. This whole program, competency-based grading, it only works if the whole school or district is on board with it, because everyone has to have the same grading policy so that everyone knows what it means when you are competent or something or proficient in something. And another huge part of it is feedback and reassessments, because they want the students to actually learn and they don't expect them to get it right off the bat. So it's important that the student gets feedback, they know how they can get better, and then they can apply it. Because if you get your grade and that's it, you're never going to go back and fix it, unless you can get more points or something like that. But it's really important in the system that they can go back and fix it. And the last one is that lots of information is collected if teachers are actually grading and measuring students based on their competency. And so this information should be as transparent as possible. Everyone should know where the student's at, and it should be used to help everyone improve, not just the students, but the teachers in the school as well. So everyone has access to that kind of information and how everyone's doing. So the key points I got from this is the primary purpose of the competency-based grading is that students are learning and achieving. It's not just trying to get your students to pass the class or to get a certain amount of points, but it's so they actually learn. They all learn what they're supposed to learn. And the grade books are not organized around assignments and assessments, but instead on measurement topics and concepts. And the last one I thought was good, key point right here, is until students show proficiency, they have a not yet proficient recorded for that topic. So there's no like C's, D's, and F's. There's just they're either proficient at it or they're not yet. So we're working towards it. And this all has to do with the growth mindset, which I really liked what they said right here on their 3 beliefs. Students should never be punished for mistakes that take place during the learning cycle. I just think that is so key. So students are willing to try, they put themselves out there because they shouldn't be punished for learning. And because we all make mistakes when we learn, it's part of the process. The next one is that practice is never graded, which I think has a lot to do with that first one. That when we're practicing, we're going to make mistakes, and it's not fair that we should be punished for messing up things we don't know. And the last one is it is acceptable and even expected that students may reach proficiency the first time through the cycle of learning. Some people are worried that with competency-based grading, since there's not a grade attached to it, that the students won't try. But we do still have the expectation that students will learn it as we teach it, that they won't have to be reassessed and do the things over and over again, but that they'll learn it because our teaching will be at that level. So, sorry I spent more time than I should have, but hopefully that helps, guys.